Good evening. Today I'm going to talk to everyone about Seoul, South Korea. I picked this topic because my dad was born and spent most of his school years in Seoul, South Korea. I'm going to talk to everyone about the past, how Seoul was created, the present, what is happening in Seoul today, and then discuss the hot spots to visit in Seoul. Learning about Seoul will give us more of an understanding on the hardships of another city and that living in America isn't as hard as we think it is. Seoul was first founded in 4000 BC and it was named the Yi Dynasty. During the Yi Dynasty, most of the construction was made in the architecture, and because of its location, it became very important to the armed forces. The Yi Dynasty lasted for 5 centuries and ended in 1910 when the Japanese took over the city and declared it part of the Japanese Empire. When the Japanese took over Seoul, it expanded the city and made modern technology and transportation readily available. The Japanese made the first roads that led to South Korea to the capital. In 1945, after World War II, South Korea took back over its city and it was named Seoul, which means capital. Seoul was damaged and deserted after the war in 1953. Because there was so much damage, the United States helped Seoul to rebuild the city and started in the 1960s. Seoul started to become economically stable again, since the city has been gradually improving. This is a picture of Seoul, and this is a picture of the damage after the war. Now let's move to the present times in Seoul, South Korea. In 2003, a man named Roh Moo-hong was elected as president for South Korea. South Korea became an alliance with the United States so that they can figure out how to deal with North Korea. South Korea and North Korea have their own war. In the second half of his term, Roh wanted to expand Korea-U.S. U.S. alliance by signing a free trade agreement with the United States. He has had South Koreans help in the Iraq War as partners to the United States. After years, South Koreans were concerned that they were living in between high-tech Japan and low-cost China. So they feared that housing prices would go up and so would unemployment. South Koreans felt that Roh was messing up the economy. So in 2009, Roh was found in scandal and he thought it would ruin him, so he committed suicide by jumping off a cliff. After Roh's death, South Korea elected Lee Myung-bak as president. In 2010, Mr. Lee tried to become friends with North Korea, but only angered them. The South Korean ship was sunk and killed 46 sailors. South Korea provided evidence that it was North Korea who sank their ship, so South Korea threatened to cut all trade off with Korea and deny Korean merchant ships the use of South Korean lanes and asked the United Nations to punish the North if they didn't back off. A few months later, North Koreans attacked South Korea's small fishing island, which devastated South Korea. In December 2011, North Korea's president dies and his son takes over his spot as president, who declared that the war will go on without his father. In 2012, South Korea was going to sign its first military cooperation pact with Japan. The pact stated legal framework for Japan and South Korea that would protect them from North Korea and China. When Lee Myung-bak became president, he promised to ruin South Korea like a business and to strengthen ties with Washington. Mr. Lee is the first Korean president with a business background. Barack Obama believes that Mr. Lee has the same agenda as he does. Obama thinks that American teachers are being laid off because of our bad economy, and South Korea is hiring the teachers over there. This is a picture of what South Korea looks like now. And here's another one. Okay, now that with the background from the past and then to the present, the past is what makes up South Korea. Knowing that what South Korea has gone through, here's a glimpse of the things that are still in South Korea that can be visited or viewed. There is a museum dedicated to Eros, which is the Greek god of love. There are some Hanok houses, which are originally houses that were there from when it first started. Some of the old restaurants are still there, which they call hole-in-the-wall diners because they're so old. There's a museum called Chicken Art, which is actually art of chickens and everything that they do. And there's also a museum for owls. There is a stream that was originally tarred and used as an overpass, but now it is 4 miles wide with bridges, birds, flowers, and trees. They have seafood auctions, which are the largest ones in the world, where many Koreans gather around and auction off seafood, all kinds of that you can think of, and anything that you can eat. Seoul has some of the best Asian food, such as dumplings, noodles, rice, and fish cakes, and one of their favorites is silkworm larva. Korea also has a place called Miss Lot World, which is almost like their Disneyland, and a coaxium. Another great place to visit would be the herbal medicine market, which you can purchase roots, herbs, mushrooms, and teas. And here is the Lot World. South Korea has come a long way since the beginning of time. Seoul started out just as a city that everyone fought over and a great place for the military. Seoul has regained its power and became the capital of Korea. Even though they fight with North Korea, they still make it work. Seoul has been through hardship and has overcome that and is now striving to become a great city. Seoul has great attractions for tourists that will keep growing as time goes on. Seoul has been through bad times and is headed for good times now. I have now explained the past, present, and the great spots of Seoul, South Korea. I hope you visit some of the old places that Seoul has to offer, or the new ones like their Disney World. I hope you all learned something about Seoul and you didn't know because I learned a lot. For instance, I didn't know South and North Korea didn't get along, and second, I didn't know that South Korea and Barack Obama were close alliances. To me, that's interesting facts. I hope you enjoyed and have a good night.